Hello and welcome to What's Past This podcast. I'm Steve.
I'm James.
I'm Damian.
And I'm Robert. And on today's episode, we have a special guest. His name is Matt Smith. He is a technician from Theatre Clwyd.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us, Matt. And if you enjoy the episode, why not like, comment, and subscribe to the channel?
And if you're listening to us on any other platform, please hit that follow button. But something I've got to note is that James is telling Matt to hit the subscribe button and not everyone else.
Yeah. If you, the listeners out there, enjoy that, you get it.
That intro is going so well into James.
Yep, I know.
Hey, that's the quickest we've ever done it, lads.
Not bad.
Yeah. Not saying much though, is it? Oh dear.
So, welcome, Matt. I hope you realise what you've let yourself in for at this point.
I think I realised what I let myself in for 4 years ago, to be fair, when I started.
What happened 4 years ago?
I started as an apprentice at Theatre Clwyd, and it's been going pretty interestingly ever since, but it's been a good fun, that's for sure.
So how did you get into that world? Like, what was your? Had you always been into theatre, or what was your motivation for that?
Yeah, I started getting into theatre around 2008 when I went to go and see Joseph at the Adelphi in London. Then I joined my youth group Panto for my one and only appearance on stage in any sort of form. I didn't enjoy it, and I wanted to go and play with all the technical stuff instead. And then it just sort of developed through secondary school, then going to college to study BTEC in production arts. So it's all just sort of snowballed, you could say, into something that got quite out of hand quite quickly.
It's I think from the perspective of like someone who is mostly on stage, there's a obviously me and Damian do technical stuff as well, but we're sort of in the gap. But I think for actors, they quite often see the technical people as being these kind of
magicians,
magicians, but also sort of miserable bastards that look in the shadows and complain the whole time.
I do that. I admit I do that.
The second half, yes. Not magicians, no, but the second bit, yes.
I'm definitely one of the moody guys who hang around in the background when I was there being tech.
That's even
Aladdin.
on stage as well.
Yeah, to be fair.
Wow.
To be fair, it's not far off the typical stereotype though for that.
I did some work experience a couple of years ago at Theatre Clwyd, where I was doing tech stuff, and the techs that I worked with that week were very nice, but they also did sort of slightly fit into the
stereotype,
the archetype. And, the first thing the guy told me was he said, "I hate being called a techie. I'm not a techie. I'm a technician."
Does anyone like that ring a bell for you, Matt?
A few, definitely a few. Quite a lot of the technicians are still there, even from when I did my work experience there in 2014. So, yeah, I would definitely be able to guess a few names from that.
So how did it start for you then, like as an apprentice? What was your kind of job like at that to start with?
So I was apprentice for the Wales Millennium Centre, based at Theatre Clwyd. And it was an interesting time. It was a 1-year apprenticeship, and had full training. So did ABTT, which is the British Association of Theatre Technicians. I did my bronze award with them. I did portable appliance testing training and a competency test with it. Also, and what else did I do? And a rigging course with one of the best riggers in the UK called Chris Higgs. Chris did Take That Progress tour with the big
right.
mechanical man,
Interesting.
and basically said to health and safety how to do it and how it's safe and all of that stuff. And that was a brilliant time, especially that I got to work Home I'm Darling during the apprenticeship for its original production.
Nice.
And that was just an unbelievable experience.
We didn't get to see that, but it was we went on a tour around the National Theatre when it was in, and we saw the set and everything. And yeah, it was kind of strange to think, it's in the centre of London, but that's come here from Theatre Clwyd. Really cool.
Yeah, I remember working on it. It was really hard because the National do it differently to how we do it at the Clwyd. So we'll have a week of tech at the theatre, then we'll have 4 shows of previews from the Friday to Monday, and then we'll do press, and then the production starts. But the National will have 1 full week of tech dedicated, then a full week of previews, and then press night. So it was pretty tough because even during the previews, you're coming in at like 10 in the morning after finishing at 10 at night the previous day, and going through every single scene again, just fine-tuning those elements. But the experience that I got from just that production alone was amazing. And once we did the Get Out for it to go down to the Dorfman and the National Theatre, I thought, I'd never see that show again. And lo and behold, a week later, my manager comes to me saying that I've been invited to go down to the National to see it there. So that was 2 days of just adrenaline rush, and I couldn't sleep. I was awake all night before travelling down because I was just so excited to go to the National Theatre and experience the show being in there, and finally getting to watch it after seeing it from backstage for a month. So
was that a completely different experience?
Oh, exactly what I was going to ask. Damian.
What was the question?
Yeah, how was it different from how is it different watching it as an audience member to being behind the scenes?
Being behind the scenes on Home I'm Darling, especially during its first run anyway, was pretty chaotic, especially on a double show day, because everything was pretty much genuine. So we had proper food on the show. So everything had to be cooked in the pre-show. About an hour, if I recall, before the show went up. Put into its places on the set. And then as everything came off, it had to be washed, dried, and then reset for the next show. So during the double show days at Theatre Clwyd, I was doing all the resets and things of the crockery and consumables. So as the show was going on and all these were coming off, they were getting washed, reset, and then put into places where it can just go straight back on after the show. So we're not messing around while we're all on break, or should be all on break. And it just made it flow a lot easier. But with watching it from the house, you would never know that you have like 4 people going around in the crossovers and stuff, setting props, taking them away, and relocating them to a different place to be used again or being disposed of. And it was a marvelous show to be part of and great to watch. So
it's the kind of thing you never think about, isn't it? Really, you never. If you're in the audience, you never think, "Oh, there must be someone who's having to like prepare the food that's being eaten on stage,"
No.
Beforehand.
I still have my cue list somewhere from that show on my Google Drive, so I might try and dig that out. I have a lot of cue lists somewhere.
It'll be a nice reminder for you.
Oh, it is. But the annoying part is when you're a technician watching a show, and you've been part of that show, you can't enjoy it as much because I was sat there going, at this point in the show, I was doing this. Or this happens at this point. So it does kind of ruin it.
Yeah.
But still, it was a marvellous show.
do you find like when you're watching a show, do you find you're sort of like, if you haven't done like the tech side of that show that you're watching, do you find like you're criticizing that show like, oh, I should they should have done this better, yeah, if that question makes sense.
I don't criticize a show. I sometimes go, oh, that was done really well, or maybe this could have just been better, though it's very rare that I go, that wasn't really good. Though I do sit there and watch everything on the technical side more than the actual show itself. So I find myself looking around the auditorium going, where's that light coming from?
Oh, right, yeah. Nice.
I'll be honest, I've only had half a year as an apprenticeship, and then I kind of quit. But but I still find myself when I watch any show, be it online. Wow, I haven't seen one in person really, but I find myself when I watch shows online criticizing the lights. So that's me. So it's not. So you're not quite like that then.
No, there's even as someone who does a bit of design, you will always find that a designer will never be 100% happy with their show. They'll be happy at press night because it's all done, and then they'll go back and watch it at some point, and they'll go, only if I could have done this here. And they'll always try to tweak something if you give them the chance to.
Well, you see, that's what we've been doing throughout Aladdin, haven't we, James? Really, and the previous shows as well. We write down some notes, and then we're like, oh, I think the thunder needs to the light effects for the thunder needs to be a tiny bit more slower, or a tiny bit more seconds left until it goes off, or certain light needs to be on at exact certain time,
or off in some cases.
Because we do the way we do it, because we obviously in the Ucheldre at Holyhead, it's a small venue and it's quite limited, and they have only one technician for everything. So we kind of discovered, actually, when I learned this when I was at Theatre Clwyd, with QLab, you can program in all your sound and all your light and have everything timed exactly. So you only have to have one operator to press the button, and lights and sound and everything happens. And
precisely where you want it to be as well.
But it takes a lot, obviously a lot of setting up, and we did me and Damian did spend a very long time doing that. But it's a lot of fun when you set it up and you press the button and the thunder and the lightning happen at the same time, and it's it's beautiful.
I remember me and you being up at the balcony just on our own trying to sort out all the lights, and every time it was just how we like it. We're like, yes, get in.
Such a great, really lovely,
Oh, that's what you were doing up there. I wondered what all the fun was.
Out of context, get in.
Talking about like pressing buttons when you programmed everything. From my point of view, who doesn't know anything about the technical side of stuff. Have you ever like programmed something and you press the button like on the night and it like doesn't work, or something's gone wrong, or just
That's a pretty good question. I've just come off Curtain Up, which was in the Emlyn Williams, and I had the opportunity to actually go and program it for 3 weeks, which is the first full Theatre Clwyd production I actually programmed on. And we're getting tired. We're week 3, so I'm already done about 100 hours work over 2 weeks. And the designer tells me to go on to a break, and he'll continue programming to go and put these patterns in, which we had going up and down stage on left and right. And I come back for the pre-show, put it into its preset, and everything was going fine until we got to this blackout cue. And because of how these patterns were set up, where they're done in cells, so you have a master intensity and a cell intensity, and they can both work differently. So as we were going into this blackout queue over a 3-second fade, the master intensity was going down, but the cell intensity on the battens were going up. So as this overheads were getting darker, as it hit 0, these battens either side of stage are at full intensity, and then it just snaps to black, and we're like, what is going on here? And that's where we found out it was cross-fading on these intensities. So happily, it was only a quick fix.
Mm-hmm.
But I was thinking, what is going on? The designer did apologise for not forgetting to check. But it was so funny in the control box. Because we're like, what?
Go on, Steve, you were saying something?
I was going to say, we, going back to Damian's mate, we've had a couple of issues with him at one time. Correct me if I'm wrong, Damian, but didn't he unplug the master laptop to put his phone on charge and then the laptop died?
I was going to say that myself, actually, Steve, as well, but I'm glad you said it.
Is that right, yeah?
All the music was being played off the laptop, and our good friend decided to at the very beginning of the show, take the power out of the laptop, put his phone on charge, so the battery died. From the,
in the middle of a song, in the middle of a performance.
So, and my scene is the very next scene. So I knew something went wrong. So I had to run around the whole Hereafter Centre just to get upstairs, just so the audience don't see that I'm doing it. I realised exactly what the problem was. I'm thinking, what a numpty. That's my PG term for it.
What a numpty.
This is a family-friendly podcast.
Yeah.
Oh.
But the laptop was completely dead. It'd taken about 2 minutes for the laptop to load up. And then they had a great idea to press play on the song again. So the song started all over again. So whoever it was on stage had to sing again.
Yeah.
It was me and James.
It was me, yeah. I got like 2/3 of the way through the song and then had to redo the entire We dream of having a tech week. We get a tech day, and that's about as much as we can hope for, you know.
Yeah. Well, with these mistakes, like it's maybe not with the music cutting out halfway through, but with minor mistakes, it's lucky that like the audience doesn't know the script or doesn't know when lights are supposed to come on or go off or whatever. So they might think that if you know something's going wrong, the audience might think, nothing has gone wrong because they don't know what's actually supposed to happen. So if you can,
Rob. All I can say though is there are some things that it's completely obvious.
Oh yeah,
wrong.
yeah. That's
this incident.
Oh yeah,
this incident with our dear friend, for example.
Yeah,
is a great one.
Yeah, that's.
I'd probably guess the incident that Matt said earlier is a good example as well. It sounds like
another
one.
good example as well.
Yeah, that's why I said like minor mistakes and maybe not with the music cutting out halfway through. But yeah, as I said, with minor mistakes, they probably won't notice. But yeah,
one other one that happened. Again, this was a previous one. Is I think there was 4 of us supposed to be ghosts in the darkness, just with a torch showing light. I don't know what exactly happened, but it wasn't in darkness. The house lights.
In fact, it was in full house lights and everything. It was supposed to be a blackout. And
the director of that production told our good old dear friend that he was doing everything wrong. The whole production was in black. The ghost scene, the scene that we actually need darkness, was all the lights turned on.
Yeah.
All of them turned on to max.
I remember 2 occasions on Panto. My first ever Panto was Sleeping Beauty in 2017. And we just did the intro. We got to the first song. And it was celebration, and all you could hear is da 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 da, and then the comical sound of a power down as a power cut happens. So I can't recreate it in my head, but it's just that sound of doom. And I was in the pit because I was on traps, and I was just sat there in the dark going, "Well, this is fun."
How many performances of, didn't you do like 40 performances or something ludicrous of your panto?
Jack and the Beanstalk, I think we were doing 65.
65?
We were somewhere around mid 50s to mid 60s. That is what I can recall from it.
Wow.
It's very intensive, but it's also really fun.
I think the most we've ever done was about 20 performances.
Yeah.
And that's it.
And by the time you get to the end of that 20, it's like, you've lost all sense of, it's completely exhausted. I can't imagine 65 performances.
To be fair, one of the things that the Theatre Clued have done well is that it's always a good team. So what it feels like is that on the panto, it feels like a family. So we always enjoy going in, and it's always sad on the last one.
Oh yeah, definitely always sad on the last one for us as well.
So
but then it's a sense of, yes, we've done it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
True.
We have the same sense of, thank God that it's out the way. Especially Christmas week, because from the start of the week running up to Christmas to Boxing Day, it's all double show days. So you spend a lot more time in the theatre than at home. So it's just really draining. But it's just so... There's something about pantomime which is just so much fun to be on and to be a part of. And I'll always sign up to a pantomime, especially at Theatre Clued.
The thing is, because we always have so much, like, it gives us lots of opportunity to play around, do kind of experimental things, like technically as well. And I don't know if you find that with Panto at Theatre Clued, that it gives you opportunity to do all sorts of crazy, over the top things.
Well, I was speaking to the production manager, and she said one of the things you'll be able to see with Panto is the evolution of the technology coming in. So it pretty much used to be like all tungsten lighting at the start of the 10s. And then gradually over the years, we've gone towards LED, especially with sort of level of pixel mapping and stuff as well. And it's as the market for LEDs starts to become a bit cheaper, all theatres that don't have much of a budget can just start to pull in all those advantages of it. So, not having to have hundreds of lanterns with hundreds of different gels in them is a really good perk. And I think one of the benefits would be effects with LEDs. Just what you can do with them, colour changes, rapid flashes of colours and different stuff, just to make it a lot more energetic and just pulls you in a bit more with the into that show in that little mystical world that opens up for about 2.5 hours.
Yeah, we did, like, when we did Aladdin, it was like we were programming the lighting, and it was with the technician, and it was like, oh yeah, can we have a red spotlight just on that point on the stage? He was like, we could just do it with the LEDs. I think we did probably 80% of it was just with the LEDs, and even though there was only like 4 of them, we just hardly had to use the main like analog lighting as
apart from the main lights on the stage, that is, apart from the front of house lights.
Oh yeah,
that's pretty much almost permanently on unless we need them off.
But you could do, it's like it was immediately obvious like how much you can do with LED lights that you just can't do with normal ones.
I gotta say, it's similar to what Matt was saying earlier, but shut up, hair refreshener. I gotta say, similar to what we were saying, what Matt was saying earlier, with what we've been doing with QLab, I feel like that's we brought in a new generation idea of lighting in the Angharad Centre. As in, what we've been doing feels so new. Like it's and it's always snappy and it's always consistent. Whereas in the past, it's always up for debate, basically.
Yeah, I think in a small theatre like that, there's, obviously a lot of the people that are doing shows there are older, and they have this very old fashioned view of like, oh, you have 3 lighting states on faders, and you push a fader up, and then to do a blackout you pull the fader down and press the next fader up, and then if there's any sound effects, you play it on a CD or something like that, or and so for us to like figure out, you can do all these things, you can have all these crazy lighting things, and you can have things in sync and the press of a button. It was just, I think it was like people are like, wow, you can do that, that's incredible.
So us, it's just nothing at this point. We're just like, we just add it to this list and it's fine, it does it on its own.
I was wondering, Matt, though, if there are any particular productions you've worked on, Theatre Code, that stick out that you're particularly fond of, either because of what the show was, or just for reasons like what you got to do on that show or anything like that.
Mould Riots was an interesting one, with it being an outdoor production. It was that was more intensive than Home I'm Darling, let's be fair, because the tech week was pretty much, for me, 9 a.m. till 11 p.m. So getting all the kit out the theatre to the location, setting it up, making sure it works, doing the tech in the evening, and then packing it all away, taking it back to the theatre. But it was just so different to not be in a room, but actually moving around Mould, which is what we did. So be in front of HSBC, I think. Then we moved to the farmers market for the mine scene. And then it's to Gerard's for another scene. And it was just so interesting to work. And also, it's technically difficult because we're trying to get show power to a place where there is no power at all, pretty much. So the senior LX for us was working with contractors in Mould on where we can get power from, what streetlights could be turned off, which had to be done by them, as well as where can we just pull power from the mains around Mould. So it was great, but it was cold. And on a Friday, it rained heavily all day. And the 2 options was cancel a show or set up in the church, which is where we did our last scene. It was about 2:00 when we showed up at 10 on a Friday. It was 2:00 by the time we actually had a plan on what to do in the church. And it was pretty difficult because you got to try and put the show together in a place where it's not been rehearsed to actually be in that space. And also trying to get all the technical aspects to work. So I'm using the lighting desk that I'm photoed with, and it's all preset. And because of the show being in multiple locations, they're on all different show files. So it was the first time I've had to sort of plan out and merge all the files together without having issues where something would overwrite other palettes, which the LED will reference from. Sometimes if you merge it a certain way, the palettes lock themselves out for some reason and you can never use them again, which is an interesting feature I found. But it was just really good fun.
Mm-hmm. And how well did that last scene go in a location that you never rehearsed before?
The Friday one went actually quite well.
Oh, good.
So we had about an hour to practice on how to do. I think we had about an hour, 2 hours practice on how to move around, how to set up the scene and do all the blocking, as well as relight the whole thing. So it's one of those things. It's where theatre is organised chaos.
Yeah.
But always in the end, it will always work out to be seamless. If you saw us set up for the show in the church, you would have gone, no way this is working. But once people started coming in and the atmosphere started to be developed, you would never have known that we had about 2 hours to redo the show for lighting and blocking. I think I was actually there still putting out lights while the audience was arriving, these little LED battery lights to give to people for this last scene. So yeah, it's always a miracle, theatre. As long as you have that commitment to do something and do it well, you'll always succeed.
Well, I suppose when you think of like how many different aspects there are to putting a show on, like it's a miracle that things don't often go, wrong, go more wrong.
It's especially with technology. It's like, as you're saying, lighting states can now change at a simple push of a button, but it takes a lot of hours now to do that push of a button to ensure that it does what it's meant to do and not throw any surprises. Moving lights, lights that move in terms of colour or pan and tilt can really throw people off as well who are not prepared to use them, because you can rotate it whatever direction you want on a moving head, but if you have it set up the wrong way, it's going to go anywhere it wants in between cues. Which I have done, and it is quite embarrassing when someone goes, "What is that doing?" It's like, I have no idea.
Well, I remember, I remember that exact same, programming the lights and the technicians going, "Why is that moving light? Why is that not? Why is it doing that? Why is it still moving when it shouldn't be?" And all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, well, as long as the audience sort of enjoys it and says that, at the end of the night, like, that was really good, whatever, then you've done a really good job. And when mistakes and unexpected location changes happen, and you have to set up really quickly somewhere else, or whatever the situation is, you can put it down to experience. So it's good that these things happen, because then you can learn from them and do it better each time.
Yeah, I think one of the shows that got cancelled because of COVID was Project Hush, and that was in Rivertory, if I recall, if I pronounced it correctly as well, which is the site where they did the which is a military defence site where it was like, I think it was mustard gas, as well as the start of the atom, where they started the atom project with the tube alloys project.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of secrets in mould that people don't know about. And when I learned about the River Moon, where all the scientists were and stuff for tube alloys, I was blown away, because it's like, I'm only 30 minutes drive away from this. It's a bit of history, and I never knew it was there. So
I didn't know that either. Yeah.
I've been there so many times, and I didn't even know that. I've only been told so many times.
It's one of the best ways to actually, I guess, learn about local history and history of the region is through theatre sometimes, and just picking up accounts of people and putting those into a show and seeing how it all works out. And Mould Riots was pretty much that. I had a little tour around Mould, around all these sites, and including the train station, the railway station, which is now a Tesco, in typical tradition of preserving history. So.
Turn it into a Wetherspoons. Like the old theatre in Llandudno, which is
It
now
is.
Wetherspoons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heartbreaking.
I've only just been told of that, so
It's beautiful in there, apart from the fact that it's a Wetherspoons, but it's
James,
they've
did you
still
used
got
to
the
work there?
balcony and everything. I did used to work there, Damian.
Oh,
right. I no one's forgotten.
I didn't know you used to work there.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
The two shows that I've seen at Theatre Club recently, I don't know if you were involved in either of them. I saw, it's going back a couple of years, obviously, but I saw the 39 Steps there in Emlyn Williams Theatre. And Lord of the Flies was the other one.
yeah, I was kind of involved with both of those. I was the fit up crew for it and for Blighting, and it was very interesting. Lord of the Flies, for focusing the lighting, was very interesting with how the stage was. Having a ladder on a slope stage is pretty interesting at the best of times.
Yeah.
So trying to get the taller scope up there was even more interesting. And 39 Steps, I was doing its pre-rig for all lighting. So I did pretty much everything under supervision because that was right at the end of my apprenticeship. So I was pretty much given the plan and just left to sort of put everything where it is, put all the colours in and stuff, set up all the movers that were being toured in with it. So it is pretty good fun, those two shows.
They're both great fun. Not 39 Steps. Lord of the Flies was a absolutely superb production. It was so good.
Its sound, lighting, and set was great, but I didn't really rate the show beyond that.
Okay.
I think it just could have been done a bit better on for its performance side. Though a fun thing was that the smoke machine, which was in front of the iron line on the 4 stage, had a leak, and no one knew about it. So it looked great with this small amount of haze that came out the hole. But they realised it was leaking into the case while it was on tour to the Sherman, I think it was, and they fixed it. And then they cut it because it was producing so much smoke they couldn't see the 4 stage. So that was something that was quickly learned. A smoke machine does not make a good fire. And the reason why it was a smoke machine on the 4 stage and not the fire like that was up on the upstage side is because with it being in front of the safety curtain or the iron, it wasn't judged as being safe for that to be an actual fire.
Oh, okay.
Because if the fire got a bit out of control on the upstage, they could bring the iron in and be dealt with safely. But with it being in front of the iron, it just wasn't safe enough. You'd have to get people out there quite quickly with a fire extinguisher with it. And with it being in the auditorium, it was just far too hazardous, is what I remember it being, because I was asking about all those questions so I could write up on it for an apprenticeship paper. So it's all interesting, health and safety fun backstage.
And 39 Steps was that was a touring production, wasn't it? I saw that in the West End a couple of years before as well, although I believe it's a different production, but that was quite fun. And they're doing, I just got this in the post like a couple of days ago. It's called Hound of the Baskervilles, which I might go and see, which I believe is a similar style of production. I don't know if you're involved in that at all.
I think that's in the main. Without looking, it sort of rings a bell. Well, we got Missing Julie now, setting up in Emlyn Williams, so it's definitely in the main house. I think I've been penciled in for it as a precaution. It's after I finish at the theatre. So I'm contracted until the 19th, which is what I requested. And then I have 1 week to pack up, and I go to university on the Saturday after I finish. So it's going to be, but I've been sort of penciled in, I believe.
But when's that on, James?
21st to the 25th
Of
this month.
Oh, right, cool.
My manager was asking, it's like, you definitely go to university on a Saturday, do you? It's like, yes, I am definitely going to university on a Saturday. I am not going to be here, and I'm not delaying it because it's going to be a pain if I do.
Speaking of university, what's it you're going there to do?
So I am going to study BA Honours Light and Design at Rose Bruford College.
Oh, yeah.
I applied a year ago now. I think it would actually be a year to the day, if not 3 days ago, where UCAS actually said, go and apply. And with it being on furlough over 2020, I had the time to properly go do up an application in good time, get a reference from my manager, and put in all the stuff before my chaotic period of work returns with doing the decant of the theatre as well as some shows in between. So with the theatre club coming up to redevelopment now, which everyone is pretty much looking forward to because it's very, very long overdue. We need to get stuff out, sold, given to charity, or skipped. If it's not being put into storage. And that has been going on for the last year now, which has been interesting because you find things, it's like, why do we have this? And it's like, oh, this is really handy. You know, we could use this on X show. Why has it been missing for the last 16 years? I have managed to get myself a theatre lantern from it that was being thrown out.
Oh, nice.
And that's now an LED. So it's currently the plan is for that to light up my room in university. So
Lovely.
So what do you hope to do in the future? Well, obviously, I guess you hope to be a lighting designer in the future. What's the sort of trajectory of that?
So I quite like to go and do musicals. Go and light and design on musicals. Hopefully, I'd like to come back to Theatre Fluid, do some lighting there, especially on the rock and roll pantomimes, because they are absolutely amazing fun to work. But also do some lighting programming, because even though it's very stressful programming lighting sometimes, because there's just so much pressure on the odd occasion, especially that lighting is usually the last team to finish. It's just an unbelievable experience. And I think the best bit is, looking back, is that you don't really need an official qualification to do it, as long as you have the passion of theatre and lighting or whatever area you sort of enjoy that you want to go into, and proving that you are willing to learn and you can adapt to what you need to do, you'll get anywhere in the industry. And I learned that having had 2 GCSEs on the time I was leaving St. Joseph, it's my secondary school in Wrexham, which I had a C in Welsh and a C in music, so I could sing Welsh songs. And having gone from that to doing 3 weeks of Curtain Up as a programmer and going on to university, it's just been some remarkable experience, which has proven that I don't need what I've been told from secondary school, because I was told I'd never use a computer. properly. So I found that pretty interesting, especially when that teacher was dragged up onto stage on one of the pantos. Sat in the front row.
Never sit on the front row.
And it's like getting dragged up onto stage.
Mm.
I love little petty revenges or little say-so, little told you so.
Yeah. I bet that felt really good. Like, I proved you wrong, sort of thing.
I was the lighting operator in the duty lighting on that show. So I was sat up in the control box and went, "Oh, the guy," because I could only see the back of their heads. It's like, the guy he's talking to almost looks like my secondary school teacher. Got up and it's like, it is my secondary school teacher. So, hello. Try and put me into detention this time. Come on.
Thing is though, at that point, you run the place, so you can kick him out.
Nah, so I don't get that privilege.
Oh.
Though it was great being in a bar later and just saying to the dame, it's like, I think revenge is a dish best served cold, because you were picking on my secondary school teacher and I was having the best time of my life.
Yeah. Has there been anything, whether it's like at the beginning of like when you started to be a technician, or at any point, been something that's put you off from doing it, or has it just been like, yeah, I really 100% want to continue on doing this?
It's the hours.
Okay.
It's definitely an antisocial job.
Mm.
So if you really love having a social life outside the work, being in theatre is really, really tough.
Mm-hmm.
So curtain up, I averaged 52 hours over 3 weeks. So when you combine that, it's a lot of hours.
Yeah.
And that is pretty much what it's like being in the theatre. You do have the benefits of pretty much, if you get a good company around you, it's having another family. Like I said when I was working on the pantos. But it's just one of the things that make you question, why am I here? I could do X job and it pays better and has more sociable working hours. But you just never get that adrenaline rush of being on a show, putting something in, problem solving, and just having a really good time. And that's what I've really enjoyed, even though sometimes I've sat in my car going, why am I doing this? It's just something where once it's gone, like in 2020, I was doing running up to the lockdown, I was doing so much work, so many hours on different things. And then it all just stopped. And I was like, I just want to go back to it. And just been clawing away at my computer until I got the call saying, can you come back, please? We got some more work for you. And it was all thumbs up from there.
Yeah. How often does the work come through? Like, do you find that there's like long periods of time where you have no work at all, or is it more or less continuous? Or
it depends on what's happening. So during the summer season, you tend to get a bit less work as theatre mostly closes for maintenance. And during Christmas, during the Christmas times, I always get asked, "Can you do panto?" So that's a good 3 months work, pretty much covered there. But when I was starting off, the work was really sparse. Completing the apprenticeship, it was like, is there going to be work? Isn't there going to be work? And then as my experience built up, I just started getting more and more calls saying, we got this on, we've got that on, can you come and do this? And then it was the same for this year. I was getting the odd call, but nothing solid until July, where they said, we got some staff that needs covering. Can you come up and do work until you need to head off to university? You'll be contracted throughout that period. So we got some security of your hours, and you've got securities on actually getting some work. And that's worked out well so far. But it's always looking around. That's what you need to do.
Okay, and the times where you got like no work at all, do you do something else to fill that time in, like anything part time, or do you find like the pay that you get is enough to have a break?
So it depends on what work I've done up to my last day. So one of the hard parts in theatre is always a get out on a touring show. So you're there sat on a Saturday doing nothing during the day, and then you're in the theatre 10 o'clock at night through to sometimes 6 in the morning, loading a show onto a truck. And if you can get just a good few Saturdays like that, you're getting paid quite well, because get out at Beck 2 full rate is about £41 an hour, £42 an hour.
Yeah, nice.
So I have done it, and I have done a day with Theatre Clwyd when I was a casual, where I did that for 13 hours in one day. So that pretty much put me off. That pretty much had me done for the next month with all the other work I had, so I could take a break in October. That was. But sometimes you're there going, right, I need to try and find another part-time job to fill in these gaps. It depends on where you are in the area as well. So I'm from the northeast Wales, so I can go to Story House and got Theatre Clwyd, and I've got a few other venues sort of in travel range. But it's like where you are in northwest Wales, the work isn't as much there sometimes. So you have Venue Cymru in Llandudno, but you have to travel quite far to get a bit more sustainable work, if I recall. As a technician anyway in theatre.
I remember you talking. I remember me and you talking about this before, and you gave me a link to Venue Cymru or Theatre Clwyd, either or.
Theatre Clwyd.
And I was thinking, no, I can't travel that far.
Yeah.
A, I can't travel that far. B, I won't be able to do the work because of my disability. I won't be able to climb up ladders, basically. So everything I do is either on the ground or in the tech booth.
To be fair, one of the great things about the industry now, we've been so inclusive in health and safety wise, is that you don't always need to be going up a ladder. People with disabilities are encouraged, if they can, to come and work in the industry. So in our theatre, we have the story of the one-armed flyman, where we did have a flyman who was born with a defect in one of his arms, and he would be actively flying shows back in the day, in like the 80s, and he would have all the flying bars perfectly balanced, so he could do it all with one arm.
So, quick question, my stupidity. What's a fly bar?
A fly bar.
Something we wish we had.
So
I don't know what it is.
It's
scenery.
What?
It's scenery.
Oh.
So it's like overhead is what you put equipment on, scenery pieces, cloths, flats.
Yeah, I know.
Lighting.
They have that in one of the theatres here on Llangefni, in Llangefni.
And it goes overhead.
Yeah.
Very hard to work, but
they have them in Theatre Bach in Llangefni, or similar kind of thing.
What, did you go to Theatre Bach?
I've done a panto there, yes. Have I not mentioned that before?
No, I don't think you have, Stephen.
of being a flyman is one hell of a skill. That's for sure. A good flyman will have tabs hit the floor at the end, right on the beat.
And it's strange that you'd think something like that nowadays would just be sort of computerized, wouldn't you? But there's still someone actually there doing that job.
Yeah, in the redevelopment talks when they were just throwing ideas for what to do at the theatre, I think an automated fly system in the Anthony Hopkins did come up, and it was swiftly put down. Not just because it's expensive in certain ways, but having a fly system with a flyman is one hell of a skill. Okay, it's old tech. It's steel cables and rope, pretty much. But it's just something that you cannot pay for in experience sometimes. And to be able to say, we have a really skilled flyman like we do at the theatre. It's a bit sometimes like, an automated system can have all these fancy bits. They can all do these all fancy fly-in stuff, but they'll never hit the floor at the beat.
Yeah.
They'll never hit just right. And that puts more pressure onto the deputy stage manager calling the show on trying to get it right then. Whereas the conductor can be speeding up or slowing down. So there's just too many variables.
Yeah, of course. I remember actually seeing, because obviously, like with our shows, we don't have the space or the budget for a live band, so everything's on backing tracks. And so when we're programming a show, we can program all these, lights and sounds specifically to the beat because we're using backing tracks. It's the same every time. But I remember when I was there at Theatre Code, another one of the technicians, whose name I can't remember, but he was showing me how he'd been doing the microphones for, I think it was Little Shop of Horrors, and he had a little thing set up to demonstrate it for me, and it was like a recording of the show with all the microphone feeds on channels, and he was like doing this as it went through, just tap dancing on the microphone buttons, and it was like just an amazing skill to watch. Just someone like, oh, these three people are about to sing now. Okay, switch those microphones on. Okay, switch that one off, and switch it back on again, and then switch that. And it was just like, it was such an amazing skill to have.
I think I can put a name to it. I think his name is Wales. He's the he's the senior sound at the theatre, and to watch him sort of mix a show together with live singing, live instruments is just something. That's another thing I think tested as well with Adam Savage. Had to look at Hamilton the musical, mixing that. It's just a skill, and it's a skill that sometimes companies will pay a good price for. And as always, the best way to learn is by making it a mistake and messing it up completely. Which has happened with one of the guys who was learning on how to mix a show, because you can't rehearse the job. Once a production's in the full swing, you either do it or you don't. So you got no choice but to have to learn it all on the go. You can have some practice, but nothing beats doing it live when it all matters, because you are just switched on.
And of course, the thing is, when you see a West End, well, not a West End specifically, but if you go to the West End and you see a production, if there's a live band, it tends to be like infinitely better than if it's all or mostly MIDI. Like I think Mamma Mia in the West End, I remember seeing that and looking down into the pit, and it was like, oh, there's two guys playing keyboards and all the rest of it is just computers. And it just doesn't have that same intensity and almost spontaneity, but just like energy of having an actual live band. And obviously that causes, you need someone that's able to tap dance on buttons like that, but it is worth it if you can do it, because it makes it so much better, I think.
Rock and roll bandos is what I work, and they're good, because all live instruments, all live singing, it's sometimes can be quite interesting, especially when they start getting their lines wrong.
Oh yeah.
You have those nights. Well, it happens anytime, really, on any production. And sometimes skip a line, it doesn't have much of an effect. You sometimes just skip to the next line where nothing changes. Or you can have this time, which happened 2 weeks ago, where they skipped an entire page.
Yeah, I've had that happen in shows I've acted in and performed in.
Oh,
More than one occasion.
Steve, we definitely all have.
I'm talking about Ucheldre rep shows.
When that happened, it was great. It didn't affect me because it jumped into a copy state. So nothing changed in terms of lighting. But for the person who was on sound, it sort of jumped all these cues that he had to do. So it had 3 cues, but each cue sets off a certain ambience. And you just couldn't do it. Otherwise, you'd be cutting off pretty much all the sound that was meant to be in that section. Happily, they did realise after about 10 minutes of confusion that they did skip 2 pages. But it's always on stage. It always takes someone to realise and just sometimes say, "We have skipped pages here." It can look embarrassing, but just admitting that something's not quite right is better than suddenly trying to run around, chase your tail, going, "We are in the wrong bit and we don't know what's happened."
At least if you're an actor in a panto, someone said to me once, at least with panto, if you make a mistake, you can literally just make a joke out of it. You can be in character. You can be like, "Oh, I've forgotten my line," or something, and which obviously you can't do if you're playing Hamlet or something.
I really think we need to tell Matt about the incident with Pinocchio falling asleep.
Oh,
Pinocchio fell asleep.
Basically, Matt, the actress who's playing Pinocchio decided, "I'm going to fall asleep on this very hard surface."
On stage.
On the stage, on the back of the stage.
Yeah, on the revolve, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not going to go and join I'm not going to go into that scene where I'm supposed to be there. So I was with with our dear friend Freya, just doing a Punch and Judy bit.
Yeah.
And then Pinocchio was supposed to come in. So Pinocchio was supposed to come in behind me and scare me.
Yeah.
Nothing happened. So I looked at Freya. Nothing's happening. Boys and girls, do you know someone who's got a long nose? Pinocchio! What was that, boys and girls? They were screaming Pinocchio. They were screaming. Deafeningly screaming. And she still didn't wake up. Still didn't. And then when the stage revolved around so the audience can see her, she was still asleep.
There was something that happened on a panto. It wasn't one that I worked, but it was one of those things where one of the guys was working on the fast straps, but also had some stage cues as well to go and push some scenery around. And one of the guys was just stood at the monitor in the wings and went, "I've not seen this bit before." And then this sequence happened, and then suddenly the trap came up and he went, "Oh no, it's my cue." He completely missed his cue. And it's like, it happens though. I have been pulled into a scene change that I wasn't part of because one of the guys did fall asleep. Someone did fall asleep and didn't show up for their cue. So that was fun when I was on the stage for Streetcar Named Desire. You would never have noticed on stage, but in the 1 minute leading up to the scene change, just like, right, this is how we're going to do it. There's a lot of stories sometimes, and there's always a rule: is what happens on the comms stays on comms.
Yeah.
There was a show I did at university, like a drama society show, and it was before the show started, but the house was open, and so there was like quite a few people in, and the show started, I think, with the tabs open, so you could see everything on stage, and the director for some reason walked across the stage before the show started to like sort something out, and the DSM was on the had the headset on and hadn't realised that he had you could hear him in the green room, and he went. Everyone heard him in the green room. He saw the director walk past and he went, "What are you doing? F*** off!" Everyone. Yeah, so many, so many stories.
Gone with the family friendliness then. Family friendly podcast. Right. What's past this podcast? Radar.
This is series 2. It's a completely different show now.
Yeah, it's a rated R series.
Series 2 after that.
Then there was, of course, there was the panto where I was playing the Dame and I had a costume change. And I forgot to put my wig back on before I went back on stage, and got about 5 minutes through the scene before I realised that I was just wearing like a bald cap and nothing else. No one had said or looked at me or anything like that, tried to indicate it to me. And I just kind of casually went like that to check my wig was still on. I went, oh God. Oh God.
Please. Even though I was doing a tech for the show, I barely paid attention. So please tell me you've made a joke out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I sort of made a joke, and then I went and found a different wig in the dressing room and put that on, and then my next scene I went on and I went, "Oh, I've had a new hairdo, do you like it? Oh, no, I don't think it suits you," and all that kind of stuff. And it was just...
Brush it off. It's all planned.
Oh, yeah.
Aladdin goes wrong.
I've had that. It's like, was that meant to happen today? It's like, well, it was meant to happen today, but it ain't happening ever again. We had to Jack and a Beanstalk tech, because of course we had this giant beanstalk that the cast actors had to go up. They were complaining when the designer wasn't there that we couldn't see the top of the beanstalk in the next scene after the interval. So what they decided to do was get the handle of this brush, stick some leaves on it and paint it green, and stick it up the trap. And I went, yeah, it looks all right. We'll see what Adrian thinks of it tonight when he sees it for the first time during the show. On one of the previews. And he's, comes up through this trap door, downstage centre, cast get out the trap door, and then they close the trap door, and it traps the brush. It traps this tiny little beanstalk. So for about 1 minute, you could just see them try to get this little beanstalk through the trap door. And in notes afterwards, where we all get together, explain what went well in the show, what didn't go so well, what we need to retech before the press night. And Adrian was like, "We are not having that again." It has made its one and only appearance. We had a parkan go on one show, and it properly went. I'm not sure if I can mention this bit or not, but it was a proper fault with the bubble, which was one of the Par 62 lamps. And I was sat in my follow spot position, and all I could hear was this crackling and sizzling. It's like, okay then, something sounds quite interesting. And then it just stopped, and I went, it's probably just me. There might have been some of the heating pipes I'm sat next to. And then it was 2 minutes later, this almighty bang happens as the glass in the front of the parkan separated from the rest of it and just shot into the mesh that was in front of this bubble. And it was just a chaos. Nothing went onto stage, safe to say. Happy to say, because of this mesh. But it was just this almighty bang. And it sounded like a gunshot went off. It was just unbelievable. Usually with a power lamp, it's safe to hold. I can get my hands and I can smack it with my hand and it'll be safe to put in and use. With any other sort of theatre lamp, so with Source 4s, which is quite common in the industry for profiles, have a HPL 750. If you put your hand on the glass, or even just touch it with your thumb or something, it is pretty much unusable, because as soon as it comes on, it will bubble up the grease, and then it will just go bang. So it was quite a surprise for this lamp just to go. It was a manufacturing flaw, thank Christ. But it made everybody jump.
Was there an audience in? Was it?
There was an audience in, yeah. Usually, if a lamp just goes, it usually just flashes out and nothing happens. So it's really, really rare. Well, it's rare for a lamp just to go bang. And I've never known a power lamp just to separate from the glass and shoot it into the mesh of the power can, which caught all the glass. So it's I don't even know what the odds would be on that. Probably 100,000 to 1 at least in terms of its manufacturing flaws. Because
did you have to stop the show?
No, because we couldn't see anything obvious, and the cast couldn't see anything obvious. Usually, if there's something dangerous, the cast, someone will go off stage and say, there's glass on the stage, and then that would be a show stop, because we couldn't see where it was or where it came from, and some of the cast had a look around the stage and couldn't see anything on stage. We continued, and we had a check straight after the show to see where it was. Thankfully, it was in a technical place, so if anything did come out of it, it would have dropped into where pretty much the assembly where I was. It would have dropped straight onto the floor of the assembly, so it wouldn't have gone onto stage. But it was a big surprise. Nightmare.
Ta-ra! That noise, everybody, means we've come to the end of another show. Big thanks to Matt for joining us today. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you for having me.
And if you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
This podcast is also available on a number of other streaming services. Why not check us out on Spotify?
Don't forget to check out the links in the description for our other channels and websites. And on that note, it's a goodbye from Matthew Smith.
Goodbye.
And it's a goodbye from me.
And it's a bye-bye Toodle-pip from me.
And it's a firm handshake and a pat on the back from me.
And a goodbye from me. And to play us out, we are going to play another track from our recent film, Broken Homecoming. Hope you enjoy. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.